Chapter 3 is the biggest Raft update yet. Hi friends, and welcome back to Raft. With the whole 4-year anniversary of Raft this week, a lot has been happening in the world of game news. Specifically, we got an actual timeline for when Chapter 3 will be released, and we know about even more content that will be coming with it. So here we go with an updated version of everything we know about Raft Chapter 3. First up, let's talk timeline. There isn't technically an exact date out yet, so I can't tell you something like it'll be out June 13th or something along those lines, but what I can tell you is that it's coming this summer. If I had to guess when it would be out, I'd probably say either the last week of June or the first week of July, given that the renovation update came out on June 21st, 2021. So about a year after that makes a lot of sense in keeping with their own release schedule. But now that you have a rough idea of when to expect Chapter 3, let's get into what it might contain. The real content in any of the big chapter updates is, of course, the new story locations. Fittingly, Chapter 3 is bringing 3 new story locations. The first is Varuna Point, which is the next location after Tangaroa. It's a massive, partially constructed, partially sunken floating city, which is, again, kind of like Tangaroa. The partially sunken bit is most interesting because it's the first location that really requires extensive underwater exploration. Sure, you could argue that that little bit on Caravan Town where you dive to get a zipline part is underwater, but this is supposedly going to be a lot more intensive if the screenshots are to be believed. So we'll get to explore some sunken apartment buildings and face off against 2 new enemies. The first new enemy is this anglerfish-like creature, complete with a lure that will dwell inside some of the apartments. The second is a new smack of jellies that are actually enemies as opposed to the environmental smack that already exists. In case you didn't know, a group of jellies is called a smack, and it's part of my life mission to make sure that everyone enjoys that fact. These guys are of course pretty likely to sting you, but I don't think they'll necessarily be aggressive and seek out your blood. Clearly, something on Varuna Point does want to seek out your blood, though, otherwise why would these kinds of traps exist? Next up, we have the second story location, which is probably the South Pole. If you want to know why I think it's the South Pole, boy do I have a video for you. The location is coated in snow and ice, and it is home to 2 major features, the Scientific Research Station and a giant nuclear reactor. Like everywhere else you visited, this area is likely abandoned after something probably went horribly wrong with said giant nuclear reactor. I have a lot of theories regarding what the lore might be around here, but I'll defer to that earlier video for a more thorough explanation. Personally, I hope that this location adds in 1 more biome type to the game, because currently there are just 3 types of biome islands that can spawn. The generic tropical island, desert islands around Caravan Town, and evergreen islands around Balboa. Maybe we'll finally get an ice biome complete with some other unique enemy like polar bears, or maybe something cute like some penguins to watch waddle around. And finally, we have the third story location. Oh yes, there is a third destination. Unlike chapters 1 and 2, which each added in 2 story islands, we know that something else is coming with chapter 3. Specifically, we're getting a location decorated with these kinds of small houses. I think it'll also be home to the Skedler, which is this massive beetle-type thingy with mandibles that look like they will snap your tibia, so that should be fun. Sadly, that's pretty much all of the information I can give you on this site, since the devs have opted to hold their cards pretty close to their chest on this one. But there's one more critical piece of story information you should know. The title for this chapter is The Final Chapter, meaning this is probably where Raft's story ends. It doesn't mean that it's the last update. In fact, the devs are making it pretty clear that it's not. It's just the end of the story, which honestly makes a lot of sense because we all love a good trilogy. Some story-adjacent news is the fact that the parts of the existing story are likely to be rewritten and slightly altered to make them easier to comprehend overall. This is a great decision in my book because it seems a bit convoluted in the base game with no less than 10 different perspectives that seemingly weren't linked at all. So making it a bit clearer is a win for everyone who really wants to take all of that lore in. They're also adding in audio playback for the notes, so if reading isn't your thing, or if you want to keep playing while listening, there's an option for you. Personally, I think this will really bring the people in the story to life, kind of the same way that adding in limited voice lines had a really powerful effect in Subnautica. Plus, just putting out some identifying feature to all of those names is going to be excellent. But of course, there's a lot more to this update aside from the storyline. We're expecting some quality of life changes, along with plenty of new items, machines, and playable content. So let's go down the list, starting with the more ridiculous stuff. We're getting instruments to annoy your friends with, just like you do in Sea of Thieves. The actual instruments part of the instruments are a horn trumpet with some old Norse-looking runes, and a pocket trumpet with a squeeze ball. There's also a straight-up air horn, so that should be pretty entertaining. Plus, you can finally make some MLG edits for your Raft playthrough. Next is a foundation counter, so you can see just how much of your life and your resources you've wasted placing little squares. I suppose it's useful if you need to figure out just how many engines you need to power your raft, but you could also use the tried and true method of just making more engines until it works. We have this tic-tac-toe type game board with some poison puffers and seagulls to entertain yourself, or you could challenge your friends while you travel in between islands. Or you could grind for some of the new machines, like the recycler. This machine will turn your excess materials, like plastic and planks, into scrap cubes, and those scrap cubes and maybe some other stuff can be turned in at the new trading posts. Trading posts will likely come through receiver frequencies, given the large satellites on top of the building, and they'll probably be like little shops using the aforementioned scrap cubes as currency. The most recent 3D rendering of the trading post shows a chef's hat, a compass, and chilies as items up for trade, but the official dev blog says we can expect stunning hats and equipment from these posts. And since I mentioned the chili, that's going to be a new food item that may be a growable crop on your raft. We know that it will be used in one of at least the 3 new juice recipes, and the other 2 seem to be made out of strawberries or mangoes, all of which seem pretty appealing to me. And you can make them with one of the other new machines, the juicer. This will probably be pretty similar to the cooking pot, and I think the new juice recipes will add in that extra little blue hydration bar that you can currently only get in creative, kind of like how the cooking pot recipes add in that little green bar of extra hunger. The last confirmed machine is an upgraded anchor. This looks more mechanical than the current stationary anchor, and I'm willing to bet that it can be controlled remotely, the same way that you can automate engines using the engine controls. So this should be perfect for all of you mega rafters out there who don't want to run down to your anchor to put it down every time. Of course, that anchor may require power, which is where the upgraded battery comes in. It's significantly larger than the existing battery, so hopefully it'll hold more power long term so that you don't have to replace your battery every 3 days. But speaking of you mega rafters, you'll likely be glad to know that horizontal pillars are going to be a thing. This may mean that the devs are removing the floating floor glitch, but at least it won't be pillars every 2 squares, hopefully. Plus, this does make a bit more sense concerning the physics. We're also getting new unspecified building parts, which I have no clue what those might be, but I'm hoping for some diagonal triangle wall pieces, and maybe even some glass window options. Or instead of redesigning your raft, you could redesign your character with the special new outfits and skins. These come in 2 varieties that we currently know about. Either some basic color changes where Maya wears Rohi's colors or Rohi wears Maya's colors, or the other option is total reskins, like Rohi's lumberjack outfit. We don't know for certain if Maya has any unique skins, but I'm pretty sure she does. But if that wasn't enough, we are getting 4 new unlockable characters to play as. These people will likely be spread throughout story locations and might even be NPCs, but that is of course entirely unconfirmed. There's a few other minor things that are changing, like adding in new small islands. Currently, there are 10 unique small islands in the game. Technically, there are 12 if you count the boat and plane crash islands, but you don't tend to encounter those too frequently. As I've said before, this excites me as a speedrunner because it could really change early routing. Other things include new soundtrack and other minor quality of life changes, but in other exciting news, when we got the official announcement that Chapter 3 would be coming this summer, we also got this little teaser image from the devs. And hidden in this image are some little hints for other objects that we can hope for. Up front, we have a new scarecrow in a trench coat, so maybe it can't be destroyed as easily as the scarecrows in the base game. Right next to that is a new backpack with potentially more storage space. Over here, we might be getting some triangle grass plots. Towards the back, there's a windmill, which looks pretty similar to this concept art for Caravan Town in 2019. Then there's this machine next to it, which might be an advanced smelter or something of the sort. And then there's something else over here that I honestly have no clue what it is. So there's definitely more coming than what the devs have officially confirmed that we all get to look forward to. But that's everything we know about Raft Chapter 3. Frankly, I think there's quite a lot here to be excited for, so please let me know in the comments down below what you're looking forward to the most. For me, it's gotta be the opportunity to speedrun a full game and set some new world records. Anyways, that's it for me for now. I hope you enjoyed. Please consider leaving a like if you did, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Really helps me out. I hope to see you all again soon, but until then, have a great day.